I'm in the new Toyota Tundra TRD PRO. We all know it's great at off-roading, but at $70,000 or roughly $70,000, is this a great daily driver? Today we'll find out. First things first, the Solar Octane paint color is amazing. It's kind of like this highlighter orange. The cameras can't really pick it up accurately depending on the type of day especially. This thing literally glows at dusk and at dawn, and it is an amazing color, and I love the black contrast on the A-pillar, the mirrors, the door handles, the black 18-inch BBS wheels. Everything on this truck stands out. The road presence is on another level. You have the Heritage Toyota grille with the light bar on there as well. And don't forget the skid plate underneath. We have the lifted and upgraded suspension on here on the TRD PRO. As we get to the back, we have the TRD tips, which actually look really good at first glance. And then you look at it behind and then you see the contrast of the black tips with the silver pipes. Of course, we have the tow hitch there. And let's not forget the tactical camo that is across not only the fenders, but the rear bumper as well, and the rear tailgate. Super easy for the tailgate to come down. Now, one thing I wish Toyota would have done is increase this to more than 400 watts for your accessory outlet here, especially that being a hybrid. Toyota's lesser hybrids can have up to 1500 watts, and for such a huge truck to not to have that feature is a bit weird. But let's go ahead and pop the hood here. Let's talk a little bit more about this powertrain. We know it's a twin turbo V6. That's the base engine on the Tundra, as they've canceled the V8. And this is the new iForce Max. We have the twin turbo V6, but made it to an electric motor, and then the 10-speed auto. The nickel metal hydride battery is underneath the rear seats. We have 437 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque. I'll tell you what my fuel economy is with this, and that's pretty important when you're talking about a daily driver. And you gotta love the small details like the TRD LEDs inside of the grille. But it's actually pretty chilly here in South Florida today, so I'm gonna get on the inside and share my thoughts on the interior of this vehicle. Door panel here is actually really soft, so that's great if you want to rest your arm on it, or the bottom armrest as well. Pretty basic window controls here. At least we have auto folding mirrors. That's a great feature. These seats also match the tactical camo on the outside. They're really comfortable. I would have no issue staying in these seats for a long road trip. You gotta love the TRD PRO embroidery there, as well as the little plaque here at the bottom of the steering wheel. And then we have a little red stripe to give it some more TRD PRO-ness as well. Door slam is decent enough. We have plastic dash and a little cubby up here that I usually forget about because it's hidden by this huge 14-inch screen. We also have a digital rear view mirror here. We have a large panoramic roof that does like tilt and slide, but also we have the sunshade here to open up the additional light in here. The Heritage Toyota logo looks great on the dash. We also have the 12-speaker JBL audio, which sounds really good. Unfortunately, when you start cranking it, as well as the bass, it will rattle the dash and the speaker grills, and it doesn't sound that great. Well, let's turn the vehicle off, because one of my favorite things is when you turn it on, you are greeted with a new national park in America. So that's just like the highlight. It makes me happy every time I turn this truck on with a huge 14-inch screen. This was I think the first vehicle that this 14-inch screen, as well as the new Toyota interface software, started in. So really appreciate that. It does come with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto Wireless if you don't want to use the built-in navigation. The volume knob's great, but it's really loose. I wish it was more of a firmer resistance. We also have heated and ventilated seats. I didn't mention the heated steering wheel as well, and you'd get to that over here, as well as control the AC in the bed of the truck, and control the light bar, control the bed lights as well. This being the TRD PRO, as well as the TRD Off-Road, have the rear locking differential here. If I put it into reverse, we see the 360 camera on here, which is actually super handy, especially driving around parking lots. Like, yes, we have parking sensors on here, but we also have that off-road camera here that's going to tell you your pitch and roll angles. I won't be using that today, as this is more of a daily driver review. The wireless charger here works some of the time with my phone. It's not the greatest, and that's kind of par for course for Toyotas. I do like the auto brake hold function here and stop and go traffic. It's pretty handy. We have multiple drive modes. And if I twist it, it'll tell me sport and then also tell me what's going on in here. Now, I don't have like a comfort mode because this does not have the adaptive dampers like you'd see on the Platinum or the Capstone models. You can use the crawl control, but you're gonna have to put it into 4 high or 4 low to use that. I forgot to mention we also have memory seats over here on the door panel. Opening this up, lots of cargo space. We have more USBs in here, as well as the old school coin holder, coin tray. That's pretty cool. And we also have a light that's gonna help illuminate this at night. Of course, we have the Tundra TRD Pro all-weather floor mats in here, the aluminum pedals. Well, let's get in the back seat. Helps to unlock it first. So let's get into the back seat and check out what's going on here. But driving my kids to school in this truck, it is so high for them to get into. Like the ground clearance here is like ridiculous. So they're the little first grade and kindergarten have a tough time getting in here. The door panel, it's hard touch at top, unlike the soft touch in the front. So that's kind of unfortunate. Hard touch here, even though we have stitching, it's still hard touch. And then the only soft touch is just this armrest here at the bottom. No sunshades on this model either, unlike some of the higher trims of the Tundra. We don't have TRD on these back seats, but at least we have that camouflage in here as well as the stitching. Let's move the girls' seats and let's go ahead and get in. We have a mat pocket on this side, mat pocket on that side. We have vents down here at the bottom that really prioritize the outboard seats here. Now, some trims will give you additional climate control as well as heated and ventilated seats back here, but we don't have that. At least we have the USB-Cs and then the additional plug-in here for that 400-watt AC power. So good enough for a laptop, but I really enjoy the panel roof and the light that it's bringing in the back. If I bring this down, we have a couple cup holders as well to match the ones up here. So we have 6 cup holders in here, but the car seat's 5. Additional lights right here as well. One final look of the interior before we start driving the TRD Pro Tundra. What do you guys think? I think it's a pretty minimal experience, and I like how Toyota offers lots of different trims and materials depending on the grade. The TRD Pro is one of the better equipped models, but you can spend less money and get a better equipped, at least on the interior, Platinum, for example. Now, with this being a hybrid, it will be in fully electric mode at low speeds, given that the battery's charged up enough, and I've been idling for a bit, so I've actually, well, I mean idling as in sitting still with the car on. So I have run down the battery a little bit. And when the engine kicks on, it's never abrupt. It's always smooth. And you don't know when the engine is on or off in this truck, even when at a stop. It's very impressive, very quiet. And then we get a little bit of sound pumped in through the speakers. And I think it sounds good. Is it a little bit synthetic and fake? Yes, but at least it gives me some feedback on how hard I'm pressing into the gas pedal. Does it sound as good as a V8? Well, nothing really does. Well, at least in a pickup truck anyways. Now, for such a big truck, this truck is extremely firm, and that could be due to the upgraded suspension here on the TRD Pro model. And I cannot believe that I don't mind throwing this vehicle in the turns. Yes, it's huge and you gotta take turns wide, of course, with a long wheelbase, but my goodness, like it is so firm, and not an uncomfortable way, but firm as in a good cornering way that at least I had no expectations of that coming in. I thought it would be completely different being an off-road truck. And actually, this is the first time you're driving the TRD Pro Tundra this week. I've driven the TRD Pro Sequoia a little bit more than this. Of course, the Tacoma as well, and also the 4Runner. But this one, to me, takes the cake for sure. Like throwing around this roundabout. It's surprisingly planted and it feels really good. Now, the torque is immense on this truck, 583 pound-feet, and just driving around at low speeds is completely effortless. Like keeping up with traffic, I feel like I rarely have to get above 2,000 RPM, and this vehicle just purrs and hums along very easily in stop and go traffic on a daily basis. Now, the brake response in here is impressive. It's super linear, has a nice firm pedal to it, and I couldn't ask for anything more in a truck pedal. And then surprisingly, like this thing doesn't have hardly any pitch and dive to it when you get hard onto the brakes. You hear a little bit of turbo whine, but not a whole lot. And it typically comes on around 2,500 RPM. You start hearing those turbos spool up, but it's just briefly, and then most of it's drowned out by either the synthetic noises through the speakers, or maybe a little bit of exhaust note. What's surprising when I drove the Sequoia TRD Pro, the newest one, not the last gen, but the new one, I did not like the exhaust on it. It was very drony and whiny, and I was just over that vehicle. I didn't want to spend a lot of time in it. This Tundra is completely different. And I could say also for the TRD Pro 4Runner, the exhaust on that was very drony as well. It was not my cup of tea. Even though it looked sweet, it definitely had a cool presence to it. But I would take this truck every single time. Of course, it costs more than a 4Runner TRD Pro or a Sequoia. Well, Sequoia TRD Pro is probably in the same ballpark, but as long as I don't need that third row, I'd pick this over the Sequoia TRD Pro every time. I just went over some rocks and dirt in the road there, and this truck like just swallows any imperfections in the road, speed bumps. Like this brick surface that I just went over is typically pretty buzzy on most cars, and it just smoothly glided over it. I put it into sport mode. It's way more sensitive to the gas pedal. I actually don't prefer it, but I'm gonna do a quick 0 to 60 here. Get into the brakes, nice and firm pedal. I'm gonna torque brake it. I'm actually in rear wheel drive. I probably don't even need to torque brake it. A little tire spin. It kind of short shifts around like 5,700 RPM. It doesn't rev that high. 0 to 60 in 6.32. That's a lot faster than I thought. I was expecting maybe a 7-second 0 to 60 here. And it might have something to do with like there's hardly any pitch and dive in this truck. Like you don't get that sensation that you're accelerating that hard. It's it's pretty impressive that it can do that. I'll put it in 4-wheel drive, 4 high here in a second, and we'll see what that does for 0 to 60. Also in the sport mode, the exhaust noises coming into the cabin, probably mainly from the speakers, is a little too loud for my liking. Just going over some of this off-road, like, yeah, it's not that hard, but doing it in this truck, like, the gravel's a little bit loud, but going over the dirt and sand there was absolutely dead quiet. These huge tires do a great job insulating you from the road or the off-road areas as well. Whoa, launched harder, definitely an all-wheel drive there. And it keeps pulling pretty hard after about 55. So we cracked 6 seconds there, 5.88, 0 to 60. And I guess when you have this much power and torque, it should be able to accelerate that quick. But looking at this truck, I don't think like a speed demon, but it absolutely does have the performance for daily driving, passing people on the highway, towing a lot. So very impressed with this all-wheel drive system, very impressed with the powertrain, and I'm just going to switch it to 2 high here as I'm driving, and it did it seamlessly. I didn't have to pop it into neutral or stop the vehicle or anything. So 4 high to 2 high, it'll do it on the fly. So let me go from 2 high to 4 high here. And it did it almost immediately. It took about 1 to 2 seconds to switch from 2 high to 4 high. As I just found out when I came to a stop there, as well as accelerating this wireless charger, it's good that, you know, like most of the time your phone's just gonna sit there. But if you're doing hard acceleration or off-roading or braking hard, your phone's probably gonna fly out of this vertical resting spot. So I just popped it back into normal mode here. Definitely quiet. Well, you have the lane keep there, but it definitely quiets the cabin. You're not getting additional noises pumped in, and it's pretty calming. What does it sound like on the inside? Let's just go about 65 here. And that torque immediately gets me there with just a mild press of the pedal. I feel like most of the noise is coming from these huge side mirrors. It's not obtrusive either. It's like pretty much just a white noise. I'm not getting any whistling or high-pitched noises. I'm barely getting any noise from these tires, which is impressive. I was in the 4Runner TRD Pro, and those tires were very loud and drony, and mixed with the exhaust on there. It was not a good road trip truck. I call it a truck because it's body on frame, and only had 5 gears as well. This with the 10-speed, like, you'd be getting pretty good fuel economy on your longer trips. Here's the thing, the fuel economy on the hybrid versus the non-hybrid, I really don't think there's much of a difference. I've driven both powertrains for a week or more. Ooh, is that that's a Lucid Air. That's pretty cool. You don't see, well, I actually see them quite often down here, but it's pretty rare for most people. But, oh, and we got a motorcycle with a sidecar. We're seeing all sorts of cool stuff right now. The iForce Max really isn't much more efficient. You're getting it mainly for the torque, I would say, maybe the additional acceleration. It's not going to help you tow more either because the system weighs more than the standard truck. This will still tow over 10,000 pounds, which if you're towing that much regularly, maybe you should be getting a heavy duty truck anyways. What have I been getting for fuel economy? Well, in town it's around 18. On highway I saw as good as 22, and that's pretty much really close to what the sticker is saying for EPA estimate. I think they say 18 city and 20 on the highway. You're never going to get, I don't think, anything higher than about 22 miles per gallon. That was best case scenario for me, going about like 45 to 55 miles per hour sustained got me 22 miles an hour. City driving, like I said, was more like 17, 18, somewhere in there. So in conclusion, the new Toyota Tundra TRD Pro is, man, it's got a lot of road presence. It's got a lot of off-road capabilities. But what people probably don't realize unless you drive this truck, is that its on-road characteristics are amazing. I know, like, this is going to be an apples to oranges comparison, but I test drove Subaru Forester Wilderness, and I thought it was going to be rough and not be impressive on-road, but in fact that vehicle drove very much like a luxury car, and I can say this vehicle does well. Like, I feel very comfortable in here. Tons of visibility, road presence. I have a lot of creature comforts in here. The seat's comfortable. The ride is quiet, surprisingly, for such a massive truck. It handles all the bumps in the road like they're not even there. And I have a ton of power and acceleration too, and it's surprisingly firm. And even though the steering's kind of numb, but the handling is surprising for a truck of this size. So well done, Toyota. Is this the best Tundra to get? Well, if you can shell out about $70,000, it probably is. I would absolutely take this over the Capstone or the Platinum models. I still think like the TRD Sport is probably one of the better buys out there. But man, maybe the TRD Off-Road would be great as well, because you get 18-inch wheels like you have on here. But I'm going to end it there. I've been really impressed with this vehicle, and I didn't expect that after driving some of the other Tundras, and they're just kind of average to me. But this one, surprisingly, has been an absolute treat to drive on the highways, in town, in traffic, and the 360 camera makes it doable, or just that much easier, should I say, in tight situations like in parking lots and whatnot. I'll see you guys down below on your thoughts of the TRD Pro Tundra as a daily driver, and make sure to subscribe for more Toyota updates along the way. And Toyota is swapping this truck for a Lexus LX 600 F Sport this week, so it'll be fun to compare the two for on-road mannerisms and comfort as well. But I'm going to cut myself off. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and peace.